This is the Sonnox Fraunhofer Pro-Codec, a full software bundle including a real-time plugin and a standalone application called the Pro-Codec Manager. With these two separate tools, we can both audition our mix in real time using a selected codec, and when we're happy with the listening results, we can create the actual encoded file or multiple files. Compared to previous versions, the real-time plugin presents a new layout design, now supporting AAX format as well as other native formats such as VSD and audio units. We insert the plugin on the master bus and we press the In button to flip between the original audio of our mix and the audio coming from the output of the selected codec, all in real time. Included codecs are MP3, AAC, HEAAC and even Apple's iTunes Plus codec for Mac users only. We can insert up to 5 codecs. So select the codec, the bitrate, and click the button with the loudspeaker icon to choose which one we want to listen to. The FFT display on top shows the spectrum of the original signal in yellow and the diff signal in red. The diff signal is the audio information which is discarded by the encoding process. We can actually listen to this signal by clicking the diff button. Also on the FFT display, we see these red areas that come and go. They show the frequency bands that may present some audible artifacts as a result of the encoding process. It's a parameter called noise-to-mask ratio. With the help of the zoom tool, we can magnify them horizontally or vertically, or simply focus on a specific frequency range. These areas are also present when we switch to stereo image view. The little displays and LEDs next to each codec alert us of any signal overloads resulting from the encoding and decoding process. Even if we have a carefully level-adjusted signal that's not clipping in the track meter, codecs may produce a clipped encoded signal. The Pro-Codec will warn us of this by enabling the red LED and showing the overload peak value on the display on the right. The trim control next to it helps us to compensate for these overloads by reducing the signal level before it enters the codec algorithm. In the AB tab, we can perform listening tests between two selected codecs or between a codec and the input signal. Just select which codecs A and which codecs B, or you can assign the input signal to B and press the A and B buttons to switch from one to the other in a smooth glitchless transition. The visual panel will show the curves of the selected codec. We can even hide all visual information and rely on our ears by enabling the Hide button, so only the original FFT is displayed. The Both button displays both diff signals at the same time, highlighting the one of the active codec. As in previous Pro-Codec versions, it's possible to create encoded files in real time during playback. All we need to do is click the ARM buttons to select which codecs we use to encode our file. Choose an output folder, select which attributes will be part of the output file name, and press record. You can now see that files are being written during playback. Just press record again or stop playback to close the generated files and make them accessible. But if we want to do the same process offline, then the included Pro-Codec Manager, which is a standalone application, is the ideal tool. Just click on the icon on the lower left to launch the manager. Here we can encode WAV and AIFF files to formats like MP3, AAC, Apple iTunes Plus and others in an offline process. We can actually create not only one but multiple files, one for each selected output codec. And to save your time, the Pro-Codec Manager can also do batch processing. We can select a folder of files and then let the Pro-Codec encode them all, just with one click. So for example, if we want to convert our WAV file library into MP3 format, the Pro-Codec Manager can easily do that for us. Firstly, we need to locate the folder where our audio files are stored. We can manually browse to it, or we can select one of the existing locations. If the chosen folder contains more folders, for example the desktop, they will be displayed on the left-hand side, marked with the number of multimedia files contained in that folder. Once we've selected the root folder, the audio files inside will be displayed in the central section. When we click on one of them, its features like full name, sample rate, channel count, bit depth, etc. are immediately shown. We can play the original source files by clicking on the little triangle on the left to check the audio content. Playback can also be controlled from the bottom of the GUI. Using the Settings tab, we can select the audio output device. The section below includes the codec selection slots. The Pro-Codec Manager supports an unlimited number of slots. The Clip Save button will ensure the audio file doesn't clip when encoded, and the Normalize button will ensure that the level of the resulting file is as close as possible to 0 dB. For quick access later, we can save presets of any codec selection, as well as the status of these Clip Save and Normalize buttons by selecting the Codec Presets tab, clicking on the plus sign, typing a name and storing the current setup. There's a section for the output file name and folder, and finally the Encode button to create the files. In this case, 2 encoded files are created. As we mentioned before, the Pro-Codec Manager can handle batch processing, that is, automatically processing multiple files one after another. All selected files must have the same sample rate and channel count. For this reason, if I click on one file and press Command on a Mac or Control on a PC, Pro-Codec Manager will highlight only those files that present the same sample rate and channel count to the selected file to make it easier for me. So I Command click on those that I'm interested in, change the codec to MP3, I've got a preset for this one, and press Encode. Because I've ticked the box Save to Input folder, I'll get all generated files in the same original folder. We can change this location at any time. When I select any encoded file, the section underneath flips to Decode mode. So the Pro-Codec Manager is then ready to convert the encoded file back to WAV or AAFF with any settings. Notice that the encoded files show a little arrow on the right. If I hover on that arrow with the mouse, it will display any metadata in green in the metadata section. Metadata is additional non-audio information that can be embedded into any file. I can add or edit metadata with a Pro-Codec Manager. So for example, if I select one file, I can start editing its metadata field by field. Title, artist, composer, even ISRC are some of the included fields. There are editing tools like Undo, Redo, Clear and Revert to go back to the latest saved metadata version of the file. When I'm done, I click on Write to File and the metadata is then written to the selected audio file. To avoid repetitive data entry for multiple tracks, I can create metadata presets. They are in the corresponding tab. Again, by clicking on the plus sign, I can create a new one. Hovering the mouse on the existing ones that I created earlier, I can preview their contents in green. As you can see, presets can include an image. This time, I'm going to copy a metadata preset to multiple encoded files. So I do the multiple selection, click on the preset that I want, and press the Write to File button. It's important to mention that only those fields in the preset that contain actual metadata will be copied. So if a file already has, let's say, a title, none of these 2 presets in particular will overwrite it, because title field is empty. However, we can always protect any field from being overwritten just by enabling the locker on the left. So as you can see, the Pro-Codec Manager is a complete and comprehensive solution to encoded file management and metadata editing.